Life on Earth, it's no joke. This place feels like one of the toughest schools in the universe. Every day is a new challenge, and it's not surprising that so many people end up choosing anger, rudeness, even cruelty. Sometimes they can't even be kind to a child. But here's the twist. It's not because life is hard, it's because they're not strong. People who hurt others often do it out of weakness. They act from fear, not from love. Choosing love requires strength, and many people just don't have it. That's why they stay stuck, repeating lessons in this school over and over again, never really graduating. And yet, among all that harshness, you'll meet some people who are incredibly gentle. There's something about their presence. It's calming, healing, even if they're not saying a word. Just being near them makes you feel safe. Their gentleness isn't a performance. It's not because they're trying to look holy or gain approval. It's not a weakness. In fact, it's the opposite. These people are gentle because they're strong. They don't have anything to prove. They don't need to dominate, control, or lash out. Their strength is quiet, internal, deeply rooted. That's why harshness doesn't tempt them. They've outgrown that level of reaction. See, true gentleness, real, healing, grounding gentleness comes from inner strength. Not everyone can access it. Weak people might try to act gentle, but their energy always betrays them. Energy doesn't lie. You can feel when someone's faking it. So where does this strength come from? It comes from healing. People who are genuinely gentle have gone through the tough stuff. They've faced their own trauma, whether from this life or past lives, and they've done the inner work. They've cried, broken down, rebuilt themselves from the inside out. Because here's a truth we often forget. Only those who are still in pain hurt others. People who have truly healed don't have a reason to cause harm. Their default mode becomes gentleness, healing. These people are disciplined. They make a conscious effort to keep raising their own vibration. They nurture themselves. They practice real self-love, not the Instagram kind, but the deep, steady, respectful kind. They take care of their energy. They protect their peace. They know who they are. They set boundaries, not walls, but healthy, clear boundaries, with people, situations, and energy. They understand their sovereignty. That means they decide who gets access to their space. They don't just let anyone in. Before letting someone close, they tune into their spiritual awareness. They feel the person's intent. They listen, not just with ears, but with their intuition, always. They trust their gut. They don't get pushed around by outside noise or manipulation. They have a deep relationship with the universe. They believe in divine guidance and support. They're not floating through life. They're commanding their own energy field. These are people who understand spiritual hygiene. They protect themselves physically, mentally, spiritually, and energetically. They know how to stay clear, how to say no, how to walk away when something isn't aligned. They live with a prosperity mindset. They don't see themselves as victims, no matter what life throws their way. They know they have the power to shape their own reality, and they exercise that power through choice, through intention, every single day. They never give their personal power away, not to people, not to systems, not to beliefs that don't serve them. They stand tall in their truth, even if they stand alone. And when they feel internal conflict or unbalanced energy, they know how to work through it. They don't take it out on others. They go inward, make peace, heal the root of the problem. These people live with deep gratitude. They're in awe of life itself. They honor the earth. They value their connection to nature, to spirit, to all beings. Compassion and unconditional love radiate from them. They don't come into a room looking to take. They come to give, to uplift, to heal, to bring things into balance. They're here to improve the quality of life for themselves and everyone around them. That's their mission, to bring the energy of heaven down to earth, not as an idea, as a way of living. They've integrated both the divine masculine and divine feminine within themselves. Their strength isn't lopsided, it's balanced. That balance is what gives them power. That's what makes them so deeply gentle. Because with that level of strength, they have no need to be harsh. There's no urge to dominate or control. Their choice is always the same: gentleness, healing, peace. But don't mistake their gentleness for weakness. They're absolutely capable of being fierce. They can be harsh if they need to. They just don't lead with it. They don't want to use it, but it's there. When someone continuously disrespects their boundaries, pushes too far, or tries to harm them, then yes, the warrior within them will show up. And trust me, it's powerful. That strength isn't about revenge. It's about restoring balance. It's about protecting sacred space. It's about reminding the world, gentleness is a choice, not a limitation. So don't confuse spiritual people, healers, gentle souls, peaceful beings with pushovers. Don't mistake softness for lack of strength. You might have to rethink everything you thought you knew about power, because in the end, only those who are truly strong on the inside can afford to be truly gentle on the outside. You see, the strength of these gentle souls, it's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's steady, unshakable. It's the kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself, because it simply is. And what makes them even more powerful is their clarity. They don't get caught up in illusions. They don't need external validation. Their sense of worth isn't tied to titles, likes, or recognition. They've already met themselves at their lowest and highest, and they know exactly who they are. They've made peace with their shadow. They don't pretend to be perfect. They've owned their darkness, embraced their flaws, and transmuted pain into wisdom. That's what makes their energy so clean, so trustworthy. They've done the deep, uncomfortable work that most people run from, and because of that, they've become safe spaces for others and for themselves. That's why being around them feels different. You don't feel judged. You don't feel pressured. You feel seen. You feel calm. That's the power of a healed, sovereign energy. They're not here to play roles or follow trends. They're not trying to be anyone else. They walk their own path, guided by inner truth, even if it's completely different from what society expects. And in that quiet rebellion, there's freedom. They don't crave control over others, because they've already mastered self-control. Their emotions don't own them. Their triggers don't run their lives. And when challenges show up, they respond, not react. But let's be real, this kind of strength, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not something you fake with a few affirmations or spiritual hashtags. It's a lifestyle, a devotion, a choice made over and over again. It's choosing healing over blaming, growth over comfort, love over fear, and most of all, it's choosing presence. These people are here, fully, not lost in the past, not obsessing over the future. They know that real power only exists in the now, and they've learned how to anchor themselves in that stillness. They don't run from silence. They don't need constant noise or distraction to feel alive. They find richness in simplicity, magic in the ordinary. They've slowed down enough to hear their own soul speak, and that's what makes them magnetic, not flashy clothes or big words, just energy. Pure, stable, nourishing energy. You feel it even before they speak, and when they do speak, it lands. Not because they're louder than everyone else, but because their words are rooted in truth. They don't speak to impress, they speak to connect, to uplift, to remind you of your own power. Because that's the thing, they don't want followers, they don't want to be worshipped. They want to awaken you, empower you, see you rise. They're not in competition. They don't need to outshine anyone. They've transcended that game. When you win, they celebrate you. Because your light doesn't dim theirs, it amplifies it. And that's what makes them such powerful leaders, healers, mentors, friends. They don't lead with ego. They lead with embodiment. They walk the talk. They live the wisdom. They don't just teach boundaries, they have them. They don't just preach self-love, they practice it daily. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. They understand the messy, non-linear path of growth. So they're patient with themselves and with others. They don't expect perfection. They hold space for mistakes, for learning, for humanness. And when you mess up, they don't shame you. They invite you to reflect, to take responsibility, to grow. Because they know that's how healing happens. Not through fear, but through love. But again, don't mistake that love for passivity. They're fierce protectors of their peace. Cross a boundary repeatedly and they'll walk away. No drama, no hate, just a clear final exit. Because they know what they're worth. They won't beg to be treated right. They won't explain their value. They simply remove themselves. And that's power. They're not afraid to be alone. Solitude doesn't scare them, it feeds them. Because they know that everything they need is already inside. That's why their presence feels so full, so complete. They're not seeking to be rescued. They're not waiting for a savior. They are their own rescue. And when they love someone, it's not from need. It's not transactional. It's pure. It's generous. It's unconditional, but never self-abandoning. They know how to love with an open heart and a strong spine. They'll support you, encourage you, believe in you, but they won't carry you. They'll walk beside you, not in front of you, because they respect your journey too much to try and control it. And that kind of love, it transforms people. Not because it's loud or intense, but because it's real. It sees you, accepts you, challenges you to rise. So if you've ever met someone like this, consider it a gift, a mirror, an invitation, because they're not here to fix you. They're here to remind you of who you are, of what's possible. And if you haven't met someone like that yet, maybe it's because you're becoming that person. Maybe you're the one learning how to be the safe space, the calm presence, the quiet strength, and maybe your gentleness, your softness, your deep love is exactly what this world needs. Now let's make something very clear. These gentle, grounded souls are not without fire. They have a warrior within, a part of them that's sharp, alert, and absolutely willing to protect what matters. But that warrior isn't reckless. It's not reactive. It's discerning. See, people often assume that being spiritual or gentle means being passive or letting others walk all over you. But nothing could be further from the truth. These people have boundaries made of steel. You just don't always see them until they need to be enforced. And when someone repeatedly crosses the line, when someone disrespects their energy, invades their space, or tries to manipulate them, they will respond. But they won't scream, they won't rage. They'll move with clarity, precision, authority. They'll stand up for themselves without losing their center. Because they've trained for this. Life has trained them. They've walked through fire. They've been betrayed, abandoned, judged, silenced. They've known loss. They've faced their darkest nights. And every time they came back stronger, more whole, more self-aware. They didn't let those experiences make them bitter. They let them make them wise. So now they don't waste energy on drama. They don't try to change people who don't want to change. They don't chase, beg, or prove. They simply decide. And when they choose to cut something off, it's final. Not out of hate, but out of deep respect for themselves. Their love is infinite, but their tolerance is not. Because they know that their time, their space, their energy is sacred. And anyone who gets access to it earns it through mutual respect. They teach people how to treat them, not with lectures, but through embodiment. And because of that, their presence alone starts to shift the room. Without saying a word, they remind people, raise your frequency or exit. That's the level of self-respect we all deserve to embody. And here's something else that's often misunderstood. Just because they're spiritually aware doesn't mean they're disconnected from reality. They're actually more rooted in reality than most people. They see through illusions. They recognize manipulation, gaslighting, projection for what it is. They just choose not to respond with the same low energy. But don't confuse their silence for ignorance. They see everything. And they're not afraid of confrontation. They just know when it's useful and when it's not. They don't fight battles that drain them or try to convince people who aren't ready. Their focus is on alignment, not approval. Truth, not popularity. Healing, not performing. They understand that every interaction is an energetic exchange, and they've become masters at protecting their frequency. They move in flow, with purpose, with awareness. Even in stillness, they're powerful, because they know that sometimes the most potent thing you can do is simply be, fully, authentically, without apology. That's a rare kind of presence, and it changes people, not through force but through resonance. They walk into a room and suddenly others slow down, breathe deeper, feel safer. That's not magic. That's alignment. And let's talk about alignment. These people don't chase outcomes. They align with the vibration of what they desire. They understand that the universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to energy. So instead of obsessing over how, when, or who, they focus on becoming, on embodying, on maintaining their internal frequency, knowing that what is meant for them will match that energy. They don't manifest through wishful thinking. They manifest through energetic integrity. They understand the law of resonance. They don't ask, how can I get this? They ask, how can I become the version of me that naturally receives this? And they do that by healing, clearing, releasing, nourishing, resting, loving. They live in harmony with the earth, with their bodies, with their intuition. They know when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen. They trust, not blindly but deeply. They've had enough evidence that the universe is on their side, that timing matters, that detours are sometimes the real path, that rejection is often redirection, and that peace is more valuable than control. So they surrender, not as a way of giving up, but as a way of tuning in. And the beautiful thing is, the more they surrender, the more power they reclaim. Because their power doesn't come from force, it comes from alignment. And from that place, they create miracles. Not because they're trying to be special, but because they're being themselves. Fully, freely, unapologetically, and you can feel it. You don't just hear their words, you feel their presence. You don't just see their actions, you feel their intent. They are living proof that strength and softness can coexist, that boundaries and compassion aren't opposites, they're partners. That healing isn't just about light, it's about integration. They are reminders that we can rise without burning others, that we can be kind without being naive, that we can be powerful and peaceful. And maybe that's why you're watching this right now. Maybe something inside you is waking up, a knowing, a remembering, a quiet truth, that you are more powerful than you've been taught, that your softness is sacred, that your healing matters, and that your presence, just your presence, can be a source of transformation for everyone around you. So to all the gentle souls, the silent warriors, the grounded healers, the ones who love with fierce tenderness, keep going. This world needs you.